Avoiding a legal and huge financial penalty, a judge siding with President Donald Trump, tossing out the penalty in his civil case here in New York State. We'll hear from a legal expert on what this will mean for legal action as we go forward. Hello, welcome to Empire State Weekly. I'm John Gray.
And I'm Jamie DeLine. A New York appeals court is throwing out President Trump's $464 million civil fraud line.
However, the court upholds the judge's finding that he did exaggerate his wealth for decades.
The appeals court overturning the near $500,000 fine in New York Attorney General Letitia James's lawsuit. That ruling found he fraudulently inflated his net worth by billions of dollars over a decade to get better loan and insurance terms.
Now, this will spare Donald Trump from a potential $500 million fine, but it also bans him and his two eldest sons from serving in corporate leadership with the Trump Organization for the next few years.
Among Trump's lawyers' arguments, they said the case had no victims. Trump had posted a bond of $175 million as he appeals the ruling.
Attorney General James releasing a statement focusing on the court's findings, saying in part, quote, "Yet another court has ruled the president violated the law and that our case has merit." She went on to say that they will appeal the ruling. Joining us now to give additional insight on the decision is a Paul Deranian, attorney right here in the Capital Region, very well known. You practice beyond here, though, right?
That's right, throughout New York State.
Got you. So if somebody needs you down in the city, they can certainly hire you. If you just gave a cursory glance at this decision yesterday or earlier this week as the show airs, Trump says he won, but Letitia James says she won. I mean, where does it all fall down, do you think?
I think both sides can claim a victory in this, but it's not over yet. We're still in the middle of the game. It's like the fifth inning, because this is going to go up to the Court of Appeals. And the other significant issue is that there's really no agreement except on one point, and that is that he shouldn't have been fined $500 million. But apart from that, the decision is very, quote, unsatisfying, because it doesn't give us any principles as lawyers that we can really follow. There's a good discussion on all sides of the issue, but that's the only point that they agreed on.
Can you break down some of the things that they disagreed on?
Sure. One of the things they disagreed on was whether or not the court or the Attorney General had the authority to even bring the case. So that was one thing. The one judge says this is a total misuse of the statute. And while most of the judges felt it was an appropriate use, there's two that said, look, the way it was done, it should go back for a new trial. In other words, 3 of the 5 aren't happy with the end result. One would throw it out entirely, 2 would send it back. But they did something very unusual. They said, even though we think there should be a new trial, we're going to affirm it so that it can go forward and be reviewed by the Court of Appeals. In other words, let the Court of Appeals sort it out.
Drilling down on that a little bit, I remember when they were arguing the case, would have been, I guess, last year or whatever. It wasn't Tish James doing it, it was one of her attorneys, but I remember her getting some peppered questions from the judges, kind of like, can you point out where this particular statute or rule has been used before in a case like this? And she was sort of struggling a little bit, it seemed like. It was unique in terms of how they sort of shoehorned this in, correct?
John, the word in your question, unique, applies to this whole case, the decision, and this opinion. It's 300 pages long. They focus on many unique aspects. We haven't seen cases like this tried. Since then, has there been another prosecution or case brought like this? It's so unusual. It's so unique in many ways. And I think that's what you heard at the argument. And you're right. It was unusual to hear that level of scrutiny at the argument. And that's why it took a year, which is also unique, to wait close to a year for a decision. And then 300 pages, that's longer than the Supreme Court decisions on abortion.
And can you talk about the fine aspect of all of this? You know, why was that amount such a big deal?
It was a big deal because $500 million, President Trump could not get any bond. In order to appeal it, ordinarily you have to have a bond to cover the amount of any judgment against you. And in order to appeal this, they had to lower the amount required. And it was only when they lowered the amount of the bond that would be required that he could go forward with the appeal. And $500 million, if it had gone forward, would certainly be a significant financial hit to his business and maybe even impacted his ability to conduct business at all.
Is it frustrating for you? Like, you're an attorney. I'm sure when you go to a dinner party, you want to, whether it's this case or any case, you want to talk about the legal precedent, the legal facts. But because it's Donald Trump and because it's New York State, Letitia James, it feels like there's so much emotion involved where people who love Trump say it was all political, he didn't do anything wrong. Maybe he did do something wrong a little bit, maybe not to this extent. And on the other side, you got people saying it's Trump, he's a felon, go get him. I mean, it's hard to get people to focus on the law here.
That's one of the risks, though, because of those feelings, which I think you're right, John. That is how people look at this and respond to it. It may undercut faith and confidence in the legal system at the same time. When you see 5 judges who have a hard time agreeing on anything, and usually their decisions are more consensus-oriented than this, I think it raises that question that people may say, hey, this is about politics. It's about unfairness, or they should be going after him. It's unfair that it wasn't upheld entirely. And I think that's one of the risks with these types of cases is they don't necessarily give us good law, but they also can further divide us. And this case does reflect the division that exists in the country over Donald Trump.
And I know the Attorney General in her statement talked about wanting to bring it to the Court of Appeals. Can you talk about the significance of that court, the highest court in New York State?
Well, it's the only way to resolve some of these issues. And you may get more finality. In other words, as I said, we're in the 5th inning, and really this decision isn't necessarily binding. I do think the decision that the 5 judges agreed on about the $500 million being tossed out, I think that will probably stand. But I think other aspects of it, there may be a little bit more solidarity at that level. But all it's going to do is, I think, renew the division and divisiveness that John was referring to in his question a few moments ago.
We only got a minute or so left. I understand why when Tish James was candidate Tish James running for the job, I don't want to say she said, elect me and I'll get Donald Trump, but she sort of hinted around that a little bit in a clever way. Does that hurt you later on when you have a legal case now against a person if you announce ahead of time, I'm going to be really looking at this guy and maybe go after him for things, even if it's justified? Does it hurt you now when you get in front of these judges to say, oh, this was not about personality or politics or Democrat versus Republican? Sure. I just looked at the law. Do they factor any of that in?
It came up in the decision. And the debate was, what role should it play? How bad was it? And what some of the judges said, well, we already addressed that. That's okay. Some of the judges said, that really wasn't right what she did, identifying him as a target. And if you think about even the campaigns we hear for district attorney locally in the state of New York, we don't usually hear prosecutor candidates saying, we're going to go after a particular person. That was very unusual to identify who I want to go after if elected. And I think that did come up in the decision. So you're right. It does, I think, hurt. The question is to what extent. But it weakens your argument.
Okay.
And when do you think we can see this go to the Court of Appeals?
It'll probably be next year by the time that it gets fully heard and briefed. I think by the end of next June, you'll probably get a resolution in the Court of Appeals.
But if you're Trump, you have to feel good about that $500 million, I guess, with interest now. That's going to...
That's right. That was the most significant damage because they would be taking his property in order to satisfy that judgment. In fact, she had talked about that. She had a clock posted about how long the judgment has been and when she might be able to go in and collect on it, which meant taking over Trump Tower. What a vivid image that would have been if she had taken over Trump Tower.
Right. We don't have a clock, but we know we have to wrap it up.
Okay.
Paul, thanks for coming in. Always interesting stuff.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate it. National Grid customers, Central Hudson, your energy bills are going to be going up a bit. When we come back, we'll hear from a utilities expert on what those increases will be. Welcome back to Empire State Weekly. If you're a National Grid or a Hudson Gas customer, expect your gas and electric bill to go up in September.
The Public Service Commission approving rate hikes for customers over the next 3 years. Starting in September, monthly National Grid electric bills will go up by approximately $14. The next 2 increases will be less than that. For gas bills, next month's increase will be around $7, with greater increases coming in the next 2 years. The Public Service Commission explaining the increases are to keep up with the cost of doing business.
As the utility, we're buying materials, we're paying employees, we're doing all these things, and the cost for that has gone up. And that's really, what is driving a lot of this.
Opponents of the rate hike, they say the increase will hurt those who are on fixed income. Joining us now to give additional insight on the increases coming to National Grid and Central Hudson as well is Joe Jenkins with Central Hudson. Thanks for coming in, Joe.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk a little bit, just to spell one thing out of the gate. I don't want to be an apologist for the electric companies, but there's a perception out there these guys are always raising their rates. That's not really true, right?
Yeah, that's correct. We actually go through a very prescriptive process as utilities in New York State because we're very heavily regulated by the state. So for us, it's about a year-long process. When we decide that we need to collect more revenue to continue to make investments in the system, or to upgrade the system to accommodate for meeting New York State's clean energy mandates, we file a petition with the Public Service Commission, our regulators. It's about a year-long process where they go through that filing, really vet it very closely. We have subject matter experts that provide testimony to them, and then after a year, our regulators then review that and say, okay, this is what we're going to provide for you, and they essentially set and approve our rates for us.
Now, they recently approved them. What exactly can Central Hudson customers see? How much of a rate increase will they see on their bill?
So for our customers on the total bill, electric, if you're a typical residential electric customer, we try to keep these increases as minimal as possible because we know that rising costs across the board have a tremendous impact on households. So it's going to be about 3% each year on the electric side for the typical residential customer. And for our natural gas customers, it's going to be a little bit more. It's going to be a little over 5% each year.
And what, in terms of like a dollar amount, would that be?
Yeah. For electric, you're going to be looking at about $5.45 per month on top of what you normally pay right now. And for gas, it's a little over $7 a month.
I know some people right now, including me, we're getting a little sticker shock getting our National Grid or our Central Hudson. We kind of forget, too, that a lot of people associate gas and heating for the winter, but summer months, we've had all these 90-degree days, air conditioners nonstop.
That's right.
That's been a factor, too, for you guys, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's had an impact on the supply side of our bill. And to take a quick step back, there's two portions to your utility bill. There's the delivery side, which is your utility, and that's what really covers the expenses of running our business. And then there's the supply side, which we don't have any direct control over. That's something that we purchase our electricity and natural gas on behalf of our customers through third-party providers. And on that supply side, especially downstate, where the majority of our electricity is produced by fossil fuels, the extended and protracted heat waves that we had in July, we predominantly powered with natural gas. And that added demand ultimately drove up the supply side of the bill, and we're seeing higher electric supply prices.
Now, when can customers expect to see their bills go up?
Our rates take effect September 1st.
Got you. Has there been a lot of pushback, or have people sort of, I know usually there's a portion where the public can kind of get their say in there before these hearings. What are you hearing back from people?
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of concern, and we understand that. But one thing that's important for folks to know is that there are a lot of assistance programs out there. There are federally funded programs like the Home Energy Assistance Program, HEAP, and those programs are actually expanding. So we encourage our customers to reach out to us to see if they qualify for those programs. There are also payment options we have, like our budget billing program, and that's similar to National Grid. I believe they have it too, where we take account of your average usage over the course of the year and make a levelized payment that spreads out over 11 months, and then we reconcile on that 12th month. And then if you do get a larger bill from, say, a heat wave or a cold snap, and you're concerned about being able to pay that off in one shot, we offer zero cost, zero interest deferred payment agreements that allow you to kind of pay off that large balance in bite-sized chunks.
I know there's been some concern about people who are on a fixed income. Would they be some of the people that may qualify for these programs? Yeah,
and I think it's important to note too with our new rate plan, for our most vulnerable customers, if they do qualify for our low income bill discount program, they're actually going to see a decrease in the first year of this multi-year agreement for us, about a 4% decrease on their bill on electric and a very nominal increase on natural gas, about 1%. So we took great care to make sure that we minimize these impacts on our customers, because we understand that it's not just us, it's housing, it's groceries, it's automobiles and gas. We're seeing costs rise across the board, and we wanted to make sure that we were minimizing our impact as much as possible.
You know, there's an old saying, everybody wants to eat the steak, but nobody wants to imagine the cow getting slaughtered. I feel like a little bit with the energy companies, and you could agree or disagree, that you're sort of invisible out there, just like electricity. We don't think about you until we need you, but then when the tree limb falls in the winter and takes a line down, people want instant service. It's not just about you getting money from us for now, it's for planning for those things, right?
That's absolutely right. We're actually accelerating the rate in which we're investing in the system. We are replacing aging infrastructure to make sure that we can maintain the reliability that our customers currently enjoy, and in some instances improve upon it. But we also need to upgrade the system so that we can accommodate the interconnection of wind and solar developers and electric vehicle chargers, things of that nature. So we are actually investing at a rate faster than we ever have before, and that's due in some some small part to New York State's climate law, the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. In order to meet the targets and the goals from that law, we need to invest faster than we have before. And due to inflationary pressures that we've seen across the board, even with construction materials that we use, we're not immune. And what's happened is we're now investing more than we have, and we have to do it at a time when the materials that we're using to make those investments are higher than they've ever been.
Can you talk a little bit more about the state's climate goals and how are you going to try to meet those demands?
Yeah, and at Central Hudson, we do support those goals. I think it's table stakes that we need to take meaningful action to reduce our carbon emissions. So we are currently the #1 performing utility in New York State when it comes to the interconnection of solar interconnections. That's on a per customer basis. And we're also #1 in the facilitation of the installation of electric heat pumps. And electric heat pumps are a great energy efficient way for folks if they want to get off of heating oil or natural gas or whatever, or traditional electric heating. It's a little bit more efficient, and there are great incentives out there to help them. So we take great pride in being able to accommodate these initiatives that New York State has offered us. And we continue to put them out there and communicate to our customers to let them know that the options that are available to them.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you for all the information. Hopefully our viewers got some good stuff to work with, especially on the prices that are coming.
Of course.
Thank you.
More scandals swirling around New York City's Mayor Eric Adams, a former senior advisor. He's trying to bribe a reporter with a potato chip bag full of cash. No, I'm not making it up. Reporter Henry Rossoff breaking it all down. Details from court. Welcome back. Multiple former top officials for Mayor Eric Adams facing allegations of bribery and corruption.
The latest seeing a former aide accused of handing an envelope full of cash hidden in a chip bag to a reporter. Here's reporter Henry Rossoff with Pix 11 in the city with those details.
These new corruption allegations all painting a similar picture, that City Hall might have been for sale, that is, if you knew the right people.
I don't know what she was trying to do, but whatever she was doing was inappropriate.
That's how Katie Honan, a reporter for the nonprofit publication The City, described what happened between her and Winnie Greco. Greco is a former top aide to Mayor Eric Adams who resigned after the FBI raided her homes. She currently volunteers for the Adams re-election campaign. After a campaign event Wednesday, Greco insisted on giving Honan a bag of sour cream and onion chips, refusing to take no for an answer. As Katie left and opened the bag, she saw it had a red envelope stuffed with cash, at least one $100 bill and several 20s. She alerted her editors and the authorities.
I don't know if what she did to me was explicitly illegal, but it may set a pattern, especially looking at these 4 separate indictments at Ingrid Lewis Martin. It looked like City Hall was for sale to the right price and the right person.
Lewis Martin, a former senior advisor to Mayor Adams, was indeed once again marched back into a Manhattan courtroom in handcuffs Thursday. She's been charged by the Manhattan DA with $75,000 in bribery. She was previously charged back in December in a separate bribery scheme related to construction projects. This indictment says she allegedly steered contracts for migrant shelters to certain property owners, fast-tracked the opening of a karaoke bar, and pressured the Department of Transportation to cancel a bike lane on McGinnis Boulevard. Did you accept bribes? Lewis Martin did not say anything coming or going from court, but her attorney says these charges are political. Another current city official was also wrapped up in the fresh round of indictments. Citywide Administrative Services Deputy Commissioner Jesse Hamilton is charged with fast-tracking certain projects and steering other contracts to certain people in exchange for renovations on his home. His attorney spoke after court.
I ask everybody in the public to reserve judgment till we let the truth come out.
The mayor's campaign releasing a series of statements about all of this, but to bottom line it, he says the new round of indictments do not name him, and he wanted to underscore that, along with those who have been indicted are innocent until proven guilty, and he says Greco will no longer be allowed to volunteer with his campaign. In the newsroom, Henry Rossoff, Pix 11 News.
The state taking another step in assessing the needs of older New Yorkers. This as cuts to Medicaid at the federal level are expected to impact seniors. A new report from the state comptroller finds that many seniors are already on a long wait list for essential support. The comptroller explaining that the state can be playing a role in addressing staffing shortages that contribute to these wait lists.
Many of those who would work in providing these services, often because of lower salaries than they could get in other positions, there's a big turnover in terms of staffing. So trying to come up with a strategy that can figure out how to incentivize individuals to be part of the workforce, to providing the support for the seniors, I think that's something also that the state could play a more proactive role in.
DiNapoli went on to say this report and the recently announced master plan for aging are a part of the governor's commitment to supporting the aging population.
Stick around. Back with a look at the week ahead in just a bit. Finally, in Empire State Weekly, lawmakers calling for greater transparency for immigration and customs enforcement officers as women in multiple states, including New York, are alleging of being mistreated by federal immigration officers and the men posing as them.
Multiple Democratic lawmakers writing letters to Homeland Security this week demanding ICE officers no longer wear masks. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem insists ICE officers always identify themselves.
We'll be sure to keep an eye on any changes this might bring and bring you the latest analysis, of course. For now, from all of us here at Empire State Weekly, I'm John Gray.
And I'm Jamie DeLine. We'll see you here next week.
And don't forget, you can watch this show all over New York State. Here's the full schedule of Empire State Weekly on 10 television stations across the great state of New York.